everyone, I'm Morgan, and today I wanted to do the big books tag. I wasn't tagged to do this, but I did see a video by Jasmine at Jasmine's Reads who was doing it, so I thought I would do it too. Basically, this tag is just about big books, as the title says, and so you have to talk about 5 big books that you have read, the 5 biggest, and then about the 5 biggest books that are on your TBR. So just like her, I didn't really want to talk about the 5 biggest books that I have read, just because 4 out of 5 of them are all books in the Song and Ice and Fire series, so it wouldn't be that interesting to just talk about those books. So I picked some books that I did actually want to talk about besides these, though I kept at least one of the Game of Thrones books. So the first book I'm going to talk about is A Storm of Swords by George R. R. Martin, which is the biggest books I have read so far, and it stands at 1,179 pages, and actually this is the 3rd book in the Song and Ice and Fire series, and I remember really liking this one. It's been more than 5 years since I've read the series, so I don't remember a lot about it anymore, but I think I remember that this one touches a lot on characters besides the Stark family. I don't really remember anymore, but I like this one a lot, and it did take me a long time to read because George R. R. Martin has a writing that isn't the easiest to read in my opinion, but it's still a really good book and a really good series. Also, I love that one. I didn't love the show actually that much because my favorite character in the books doesn't actually exist in the TV show because she is the daughter of the King of Dorne, and they chose not to put her in the TV show because they wanted to do a spin-off of Game of Thrones following people in Dorne, and in the end this was cancelled, so we're never getting her. Whatever, but yeah, this is a really good series. The next longest book I have read is The Passage, and it stands at 963 pages, and this is also a book that is part of a series, a trilogy precisely, and this is the first one. Honestly, this one was a bit too long for what it did. I love the Passage series. It's about this world where there's a disease that is spreading, relatable kind of, but actually this disease transforms people in something like vampires, so I thought that was really interesting because this isn't technically about vampire and they don't use that word, but the people that are infected are just like that. And also we have the 12 that we learn of later that can talk to each other, and they're the first 12 people who were infected. And we follow this girl in this book, Amy, who is one of the first people that was infected, and she was separated from her mother and just a lot of shady stuff. But the thing is, this book is kind of separated into 3 parts, and the second part is too long in my opinion. It doesn't really add a lot to the story, and I found myself a little bit bored. But then it does pick up, and the last third of the book is really great, and it is a great setup for the next book that I also love, and it's actually one of my favorite books ever. This is one of the only series, as I mentioned actually in the series that I need to finish, where I love the second book even more than the first one, and I still have yet to read the 3rd one, so I can talk about that one. But yeah, a great big book. The next big book that I have read is Harry Potter and the Order of Phoenix, so I will not be talking about that one because I think everyone has read Harry Potter, or for the people who haven't, they don't want to, so there's no point in me talking about it. I actually reread the 5th one a few months ago, and I thought it was a bit too long and could have benefited for a bit of editing, but whatever, it was still really fun to go back into the world of Hogwarts, and well, not actually Hogwarts because in the fifth they're not really there, but just yeah, in the world of Harry Potter in general. Then I have The Goldfinch that stands at 867 pages by Donna Tartt. Donna Tartt is one of my favorite authors of all time. She's just amazing, and she wrote another one of my favorite books, that is The Secret History. But this one, The Goldfinch, follows this guy Theo Decker without most of his life from the age of 13, apparently. Yeah, I actually read this one also a few months ago, but I never remember the ages. I just know that we go through many years, and at first he's a kid and his mother has just died, because in the beginning they go to this museum, and the museum suffers an explosion. And he actually survives, but his mother doesn't, and he's sent to live with his father that he hasn't seen in a long time, and it's just a lot of hardship in this book. Theo goes through so much in all his life, through addiction, but also other stuff. It's like he can get enough, you know? He doesn't really get something good for a while, though he tries. I mean, there are some good parts, but overall it's kind of depressing at times, but not in a bad way. Like, I thought this was so great. It was beautiful. I thought the character of Theo was so well crafted, and that you can just feel everything with him. And also this book is told in a stream of consciousness way, so you really feel like you're with him all throughout these years, and the weight of those years makes the story that much more amazing, in my opinion. And that's why I think the movie didn't work so much. It came out a few months ago, and I actually reread the book before going to see it, and it wasn't good. Like, obviously adapting a book that is this big to a screen is hard, because even if the movie was more than 3 hours long, or maybe, I don't know, at least 2 hours and 30 minutes, it still wasn't as long to tell the story, and you didn't feel the same weight. And actually my friend who came with me to see it didn't understand most of the story, because they cut some scenes that for them maybe weren't so important, but really are essential to follow the story. So in the end it was just weird and not that great, and I was disappointed. But then again, I also didn't really know how it could be good, because as I said, adapting such a big book is just hard, and I don't really know if it's possible unless you just pick a part of the book and forget the rest. But here you can't really do this, because it's all about this painting, the Goldfinch, that Theo not really steals, but just takes when the museum is in ruins, and he keeps it, and stuff happens with that painting. A lot of bad things happen, but he still goes through it, and he comes out on top in the end. So yeah, that's nice. Next is 11/22/63 by Stephen King. This is a book again that I haven't read in a long time, but that I remember really loving. It's about a man who discovers that he can time travel to the time of the assassination of John F. Kennedy, and so he tries to prevent it, and stuff happens. And that's just really interesting. At first, obviously, as he can time travel, he decides that he wants to become rich, and he tries to steal everything about investments, about lottery, and just everything so that he can gain money, which is understandable, obviously, but he decides in the end to prevent John F. Kennedy's assassination, but it doesn't work out as well as you would think. I mean, I guess that's understandable. But yeah, it's so nice, this book. I loved it. It was slow, but not too slow, and it made for a great book. The next big book that I have read is another book of the Song and Ice and Fire series, and that is the first one, A Game of Thrones. But the last one I actually wanted to talk about is Christine by Stephen King. That stands at 768 pages, and this book I actually don't own anymore because I unhauled it, but yeah, I didn't love this book, but it was interesting. Obviously, if you don't know, Christine is a story about a car that can drive itself and tries to kill people. Well, succeeds, obviously. I don't know, kills a lot of people. And it's about this car and the man who purchases it at the beginning of the book, and how he's starting to think he's crazy. He's wondering if he's doing the things or if it's the car. And I mean, that part was really interesting about the man and just about the mind in general, and how people starting to become crazy, and they're wondering if they see a car without a driver, but they're like, am I dreaming, am I not? That's always really interesting in Stephen King's books, the ones that are supernatural, because he likes to fuck with your mind, you know. But besides that, I don't know, it's just, I'd always heard, even before reading this book, that this was about a car that kills people, and that's what it was. And to me, there wasn't much to it besides that. Though I did like how it fucked with my mind, but that wasn't all there was to it. And I was just waiting for it to end at some point, because I don't know. It's like, you just know the car is going to keep killing people, and that's what happens. I mean, more than that happens, obviously, but still, I was a bit underwhelmed, personally. And now for the big books that I haven't read, I'm actually going to go from the shortest big book to the biggest. So the shortest big book that I have on my TBR is The Wise Man's Fear by Patrick Rothfuss. It is 994 pages, and it is the second book in the Kingkiller Chronicle, the first book being The Name of the Wind. I really did enjoy the first book, and I'm going to read this one with Pauline from Dancing Lawn in May, so I'm really excited. The next big book I have on my TBR is The Complete Tales and Poems of Edgar Allan Poe, and this is a beautiful edition that I own. The thing is, I have wanting to read this book again for ages, but the problem that I have is that this is at first poems and then short stories, but you only have one ribbon bookmark, so I can't like just read first the poems and then the short stories. I want to read them both, and just whenever I want, read a poem or a short story. And I know I could just like take whatever bookmark and do that, but it wouldn't be as pretty. And so that's just the only reason that I have for not reading this. I actually have a friend who told me that you can easily sew another ribbon here and that you can use both, so maybe I will do that. Though right now all the shops are closed for me to buy a ribbon, so I will have to wait, but hopefully I will do that and actually read this book. Then I have another King book, and that is Under the Dome. This one I have actually been going back and forth in wanting to read, just because I have heard extremely mixed things about it. Like, at first I heard so many people say they didn't like the book and like the show better, and I don't know if that's true, but I still am going to read it. I decided, so we'll see. Then the second biggest book I have on my TBR is Gems of Autumn, and it is 1,200 pages, and this one is actually the fourth book in the Outlander series, and I still have yet to read even the first one, so I don't know if it will ever happen, but we'll see. And now the biggest book I have on my TBR is an Albert King book, and it is The Stand. And it stands at 800, no, and it is 1,325 pages. And I really want to read this one actually right now because of what is happening in this book. It's about a disease that is spreading. Can relate. So yeah, I know some people really don't want to read dystopia or stuff like that right now with what's going on in the world, but I'm totally in the part of the people who want to read dystopian books right now. So this one just sounds amazing, and also I've seen it in so many people's list of like best books ever, so that's really nice. But I don't know if I'm going to have time to read it soon because, as you'll see, I am doing the Owls and also trying to read the books for the SFF BookTube Awards. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to read this as well, considering how big it is. But I am still really excited to read this one at some point. But that's all for me. Please tell me if you have read any of these books and what you thought of them, as I would love to know, and what big books you really love. But that's all for me. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you soon. Goodbye. Dream I know, deep up my feelings for you.